We have Mattie Duppler from Americans for Tax Reform, Michael Strain of the American Enterprise Institute, and Carol Roth, CNBC contributor, author of The Entrepreneur Equation. Am I being too hard on them? Because let's just say, for example, you were a low-level staffer at Microsoft when that thing first started, and they handed out stock, and the stock was probably worthless. Whoops. Some point later, you're worth several $1 million. Now, what is wrong with that?
There is nothing wrong with that, and we need more of that. I've used the example of Mark Zuckerberg, the fact that he's a billionaire. The only people who were hurt by that were maybe the Winklevoss twins. But outside of that, everybody else did well. Not only that, he left another job open. He could have gone to work for someone else. He left that job open. He created more jobs. And I hate this whole idea of income inequality because it's basically saying that there's one pie and that for some reason, if you slice up the pie, that if I want a piece, it has to come at the behest of somebody else. And we're in a capitalist system. We are growing the pie. We have 28 million businesses, 6 million employers in this country. There are plenty of opportunities for growth if we have the right policies, Larry.
The people who get wealthy don't put the money under a mattress. That money goes to work in the economy, one way or the other. That's what market capitalism is all about. Michael Strain, let me ask you about another thing. The president said mobility has been declining. Now, I just thought there was a study led by a Harvard professor that said social and economic mobility hadn't changed in 50 years. Now, maybe it should be better, particularly at the low end. I'm not denying that. But I'm not saying all of a sudden mobility is crashing.
That's right, Larry. It's been flat over the last few decades. There was a new study that confirmed that. That's a finding that a lot of economists have believed already prior to the study. And you're right to talk about the low end. You know, we need more wealth. I agree with you. We also need more jobs, and that's the thing that I wish the president had focused on last night. We have record unemployment. A good way, if you're worried about inequality, a good way to deal with it is to get more folks jobs. Was totally absent from the State of the Union last night.
I mean, I think that's right. You know, Mattie, he had this. Let me play a second tape for you about his views on corporate tax reform, which I think is so important. Hang on 1 second and take a listen to the president on corporate taxes.
So let's make that decision easier for more companies. Both Democrats and Republicans have argued that our tax code is riddled with wasteful, complicated loopholes that punish businesses investing here and reward companies that keep profits abroad. Let's flip that equation. Let's work together to close those loopholes and those incentives to ship jobs overseas and lower tax rates for businesses that create jobs right here at home.
You see, Mattie, I just don't think he has that story right. Now, he mentioned tax reform and he wants a lower rate, so that sounds good. But he's going to punish people that have their profits overseas because they don't want to be double and triple taxed. And by the way, we have globalness. We're not going to end that. There's sales and administration overseas. And then he has this transitional thing where he wants to slap taxes on businesses at home and use it for spending purposes. Now, Mattie, either A, let's eliminate the whole bloody corporate tax, or B, you know, let's just have a revenue-neutral big slash in corporate tax rates.
Right. And, you know, the president last night didn't give us anything new to talk about with taxes. We know when he's talking about tax reform, what he really means is a massive tax hike. And you're right. You know, he kind of nibbles around the edges of what a corporate tax reform package could look like. But at the end of the day, what it is, it's a rate reduction only for multinationals that isn't anywhere near close enough for us to be globally competitive, but also goes after small businesses. And we're talking about job creators, the lack of jobs, the lack of employment here in the nation. The small business owners are the ones who are supposed to be driving that job growth, and they're the ones who are going to get nailed under Obama's tax plan, because what he does is he zeroes out any depreciation for them. He raises capital costs, and raising the minimum wage he wants to raise later, and makes it much more difficult for them to be viable.
And not only that, you have to remember most of the small businesses in this country are not even taxed at the corporate tax rate. They're passed through entities. So all the legislation around personal taxes and the fact that they now have to pay a Medicare tax and extra taxes on their investment income over the past few years actually hurts small business owners. Minimum wage, Obamacare, it's one thing after another. I'd like to see policies that actually help small business owners and inspire job growth.
You know, okay, let me stay with that. Michael Strain, by the way, in some sense, the whole corporate tax is a pass-through. They may pay the corporate tax, but they pass it through in terms of lower wages, less hiring, and higher consumer prices. To me, that's a reason to get rid of the corporate tax altogether. Let the individuals who own the stock, they can pay whatever the earnings are, but that means they'll only be taxed once, and we can have more hiring and higher wages. That's the argument being made to get rid of the corporate tax.
Yeah, that's right. And, you know, like you said, the stockholders, the shareholders are people who are paying those taxes and who own the company, really. And so to say that they're not being taxed is just ridiculous. I think at a minimum we need to significantly lower the corporate tax. And it fits in with this general theme. You know, the president seems to be concerned about everything but unemployment, about everything but jobs. And that's where the central focus should be right now with a labor market as troubled as ours is.
Mattie, let me just put one on the table, though. I want to give him some credit. He did talk about free trade. He did talk about free trade. And he's got an initiative for Atlantic free trade. He's got an initiative for Pacific free trade. Today, Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid said no special consideration for no fast-track trade promotion bills, which is really too bad. Free trade would be pro-growth. I got to give Obama credit for that. I know he doesn't push it, but he did put it on the table, and now Harry Reid is knocking it down.
Well, listen, the only people who probably hated that speech more than some conservatives out there are Democrats, since the president now is laying out a progressive agenda that he thinks is right for the country, but he doesn't have to walk the plank on it. The Senate Democrats do. If he really thought increasing the minimum wage was a great economic idea and would save us all these jobs and save the economy, he would have done it in 2009 or 2010 when he had the Democrats controlling both chambers in Congress. Instead, he waited until he was safely reelected, and now he's talking about raising the minimum wage. You better bet the Senate Democrats don't want to be taking those votes either.
Well, I just think, I don't know, I was glad to see the paragraph on free trade. I think that's a good thing.
One paragraph out of 65 minutes. All right, I'll take it.
You know, I've helped
One
put together.
better than none.
I've helped put these things together. Paragraph is all you get in a State of the Union speech. All right, Carol Ross, let me ask you another one. I'm going to give him credit on this too. I mean,
You're giving credit twice, Larry. I want to be on the record here.
We've knocked him around pretty good on income inequality, but I'll give a second point of credit. Immigration reform. If you do it right, immigration reform is definitely pro-growth, in my view. Not all my conservative friends agree with me, but in my view, particularly the brainiacs, the H-1B visas, the foreign students going to school here, and also the kids of undocumented workers should be given the same education. And let's keep them all here. Now, Obama said that. We should have some progress on immigration.
I think that we should have some progress. I think the type of progress you're talking about is very helpful. I don't think that that's the type of progress we're going to get.
What do you think is going to happen? But don't you think Obama was sincere about the immigration?
I think he wants to have immigration reform, but I think he wants to have broad immigration reform, and I think that would actually have an impact on the low end of the job scale. And I think if you look at everything that he's done in terms of all the time that he said that he's focusing on jobs, first he focused on health care, which obviously didn't help jobs, then the minimum wage. I think the same thing happens with immigration. You're going to bring a bunch of people into the system when we already are having a hard time filling the jobs. If we were just filling the
nobody's working. Only 58% of the population is working, so we might need them at the low end. But listen, Strain, let me just ask you this on immigration. You hear from Speaker Boehner, you hear from Paul Ryan, budget chairman. Republicans in the House are looking hard at immigration in pieces. That's how I understand it, Michael. And to me, the low-hanging fruit here is the brainiacs, the H-1B visas, and the foreign students and the kids who are born here. To me, maybe we're not ready for trusting about border security and legalization. But why not go with the brainiacs? That, to me, would be absolutely pro-growth.
You know, I couldn't agree more. What we do right now is madness with these high-skilled immigrants. We bring a lot of them here as graduate students. They come here, they earn PhDs in engineering and science and technology, and a lot of them want to stay. And then just when they're ready to contribute to the economy, we tell them they have to go back home. It's utterly crazy. We should let all of them stay here. If you earn a graduate degree from a good school in a technical field, you should have a green card stapled on your diploma.
All right, we're going to leave it there. We're going to leave it there. I was just going to say this. President Obama's State of the Union message, not good on wealth and growth, not good on inequality, good on free trade, good on immigration reform. You have to always look for the good in things, okay? These are hard times. Mattie Duppler, thank you very much. Michael Strain, thanks very much. Carol Ross going to rejoin us and hang out and talk about whether